Welcome to episode number 12 of Hoop Talk Fanatics. I am here with my co-host, Chris Korn, and we have a special guest on. He covers Seton Hall Hoops, Mat Mlodzinski, and we are excited to have him on and talk about this upcoming Big East matchup between the Villanova Wildcats and Seton Hall. Thank you thank you so much for coming on, and we are happy to have you on.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, and also props. You got my name correct on the first try, so that's always that's not easy.
So, my first question was, what are your thoughts on this past game against Xavier?
Yeah, obviously, Xavier comes into the Prudential Center, and I think that a lot of people were kind of riding the Musketeers coming into that game, and it felt like more of a must-win for Seton Hall, and Seton Hall took care of business. Obviously, down the stretch, didn't take care of it as quickly as most Pirates fans would have wanted to with the poor free throw shooting. But I think it was just a testament to the coaching of Kevin Willard. He knew how important that game is. Seton Hall needed to go 1-1 this week, and obviously it's a lot easier to start it off with a home win against Xavier rather than an away win at Villanova. So they got that first one off. They were able to check that box off, and now it moves on to Villanova, which is going to be even tougher of a task.
So, what is your thoughts on Saturday's matchup between a very talented Villanova offense, and do you think that Seton Hall has the talent to upset them?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you said it right there. It's a talented Villanova offense. With Colin Gillespie at the point, anything can happen. He's going to get the job done because he's such an elusive guard as far as getting to the bucket, getting off his own shot from deep, and getting everyone else involved. And I think you've seen the Villanova offense expand as the season's gone on. I think at the beginning of the season, we didn't know where some of the secondary scoring might have come from. Now that's starting to fall into place. So I think Seton Hall is going to have their hands full as far as really guarding 1 through 5. Eric Dixon's a guy that's really picked it up. That game against UConn was huge. So Alexis Yetna and Co down low are going to have to play big. But as far as that second part of the question, yeah, Seton Hall certainly has a shot. I think whenever the Pirates are in a game, it doesn't matter there's probably only a handful of teams on any given year that you'd say, okay, this is going to be a real tough game to win. And this year more than ever, the parity is there, and especially in the Big East, we've seen it. I mean, this is a Seton Hall team that can beat the cream of the crop in UConn, and they can lose to the bottom teams in DePaul. So with that being said, yeah, I do think that Seton Hall's got a real good chance at winning at the Wells Fargo Center.
Yeah, it should be a very intriguing game to watch, and I'm excited to see what the outcome of it comes.
Definitely, yeah. Like I'm excited for that one. Matt, what do you think? Like, really, that Seton Hall needs. What do you think? Like, is the biggest X factor kind of for them in that game?
Yeah, that's a good question. To me, it's going to be Kadari Richmond, because obviously that's kind of the X factor going into every game now that Bryce Aiken's out with the injury concussion. But I think more so against this Villanova team because Jay Wright's going to find a way to exploit Kadari Richmond. Colin Gillespie's a guy that's been in about every situation that you could name in college basketball. So he's going to try to find a way to exploit the sophomore. So it's going to be, can Richmond really rise to the occasion in a hostile away environment against such a seasoned veteran in Gillespie?
I think it's really big for Villanova to have Gillespie back as well as Justin Moore.
Yeah, Gillespie not missing much. Was he out for any games even, or just the one he got injured in?
Just the one he got injured.
That was crazy. I thought it was gonna be at least a few. So that's big.
I thought it was a severe injury and thought it would take some time.
Yeah, no, you said it. I like the point about Justin Moore too, because I mean he's such a talented guard.
Mhm.
It's just nuts. Like he can really he can fill in when Colin Gillespie is hurt. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like the craziest thing is that Villanova has such a talented guard, one of the most talented guys in the country. And if he goes down, boom, Justin Moore can just fill in just like that. And I
Yeah.
don't think he said that last year.
So my next question is, who do you think will win the most improved player in the Big East?
Another good question. Man, that's a tough one. Gosh, I'm gonna go with a sophomore from UConn, Adama Sanogo. I mean, I think everyone kind of already knew who he was coming into this year, but some of the numbers he's been putting up are just ridiculous. I mean, he had that 24 and 15 outing against Marquette. You could go a handful of guys on Marquette as well, because I don't think that was a team that we thought would be where they are right now. Shaka Smart's done a great job, but I'd go with the Adama Sanogo because without him, I think that UConn's kind of in the same area as maybe a Creighton. I know that UConn lost to Creighton, but I still put UConn above Creighton. I think without Adama Sanogo, they struggle a lot more than they are right now.
So my next question is, what are your thoughts on Marquette?
I think Marquette, I think they're a good team. I think that, they're certainly a tournament team. I think we're going to see them in March, and they can win a game in March. But I feel like that shouldn't really be the way to grade teams now, because I feel like college basketball has gotten to the point where out of the 350 teams, I think you could make an argument that 150 teams in college basketball could win a game in March. Taking into consideration that if that 150th team was a 12 seed playing a 5 seed, I think they could win. They could beat that 5 seed. Like, you wouldn't look at it as like, oh, this is going to be a 20-point game for sure. And obviously Marquette isn't the 150th best team in college basketball. They're a top 30 team, top 25 team. So I think they can, but when you get to March, I think that Marquette maybe is a year or two away from being real, real good. So I don't want to put too much weight on that.
I agree with that. Shaka Smart definitely seems back in a better situation for him. It's like, I'm more of a Big 12 guy, so like him at Texas, just very, like, he had some really good teams, but just never worked out. And I don't know, just definitely feels a lot better with him in Marquette.
Yeah. Big 12. I couldn't tell with the Kansas behind you.
So tomorrow night, Xavier plays UConn, and that's going to be a big game at the Cintas Center. And what are your thoughts on going to that game? And do you think Xavier has the chance to knock off them?
Yeah, that's gonna be a big game. I think that that's going to be an even game. I think the thing that when you look at Xavier is how is Zach Freemantle going to respond because of how the night ended for him against Seton Hall. Is he going to come back and he needs to come back and not lose his aggressiveness. We obviously saw what happened with him getting out of the game with the little whatever you want to call it with Trey Jackson. But if you're Zach Freemantle, you don't want to let that be the defining point in your season. You want to come back, just push it aside, and be the player that everyone expected him to be coming into the season because he's a talented kid. And that's going to be big going up in that matchup.
So I just wanted your thoughts on Providence and how well they are doing this year with Ed Cody doing a great job coaching a talented young team. And do you think they can win the Big East tournament?
Yeah, Alexander, I think that when you look at Providence, you've got a team You mentioned they're an Ed Cooley coach team, and he's a guy that seems to do a lot more with less. And he's doing that this year better than he ever has. And I think that Providence certainly can win the Big East. They're right now on track to be the 1 seed in the Big East. So they've certainly got the credentials to do that. I'm still treading a little bit lightly. And I know that it's going back now almost a month and a half ago. But just the wins over UConn and Seton Hall, who to me are in that top 4, top 5 of the Big East, where the Huskies and the Pirates both were not at full strength, not even close to full strength. Seton Hall was without Tyrese Samuel and Ike Obiagu, and UConn was without Tyrese Martin, and I'm blanking on who else they were without, but it might have been Sonogo, but don't quote me on that. But when those are 2 of your wins, and they were both real closely contested games, I just kind of look at a Friars team where I need to see more. They have yet to play Villanova once either. So right now they're getting a bunch of wins, and it's tough to win in the Big East. That's the one thing you can't lose. Even though I've brought up that, I got to bring up the point that it's tough to win in the Big East, and they've done that tremendously this season. But what's it going to be like when they play both those teams at full strength, and what's it going to be like when they finally play the Wildcats?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's kind of where I'm at with them. It's just you got to give them a lot of credit for winning the games they have. And I'm looking at their schedule now. They have a lot of home games. The rest of the way it looks, and then they play Villanova twice. Those are the 2 that really stick out. And then the Big East tournament after that, of course. So we're gonna get to see this team in a few big games before the NCAA tournament. So I feel like we'll get a better gauge of really where they're at during these games. And yeah, Villanova is next Tuesday, so that's gonna be a good one. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, that's you got to circle that on your calendar now. I gotta plan that out. That's gonna be a big game.
Yeah, for sure.
So Matt, what other teams have you been tuning into other than teams in the Big East?
Yeah. So I started the season. Well, all right. I went to Seton Hall, but I also I went to Syracuse and got my master's last year. So I'm always watching the Orange. I grew up an Orange fan, so that's always been my team until I went to Seton Hall, and then I had a conflict of interest. I did it before Kadari did it, so I'll put that out there. And then I've been watching. Honestly, whenever there's a top 25 matchup on, I love the Big Ten, and I know the Big Ten has so many of those. St. Bonaventure, another team that I was big on at the beginning of the season, they disappointed a little bit, but I love the Atlantic 10 as a whole. So really just Northeast basketball, or if there's a good game on, I'm putting it on, man. I love college ball.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was actually at the St. Bonaventure game against UConn.
Okay, down in Newark, yeah.
Yeah. It was nice to see RJ Cole play in person.
He's a hooper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that UConn. I love this UConn team.
Yeah.
Really excited about them.
They're a dangerous team.
What do you think about a Cook?
Yeah, I think he's a talented player. I just feel like it's hard for him to really fit in on this Connecticut team. Ever since he got there, it's just been tough for him to really get a grip with them. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up transferring in the future, just to get more minutes and more of a solid role. But hey, he's a solid player, and he's got one of the best names in college.
Definitely.
So kind of going to the Big Ten conference, who do you think will win their conference tournament, and who is a sleeper team to watch out for?
Right now in the Big Ten, I like Purdue. I know that that's kind of the consensus choice. I just think that when they beat Illinois the way that they did a few days ago, that really sealed it for me, because that just showed that, all right, first off, you just beat Illinois, one of the best competitors in the Big Ten, twice. And the second time, you did it by 14 points. So to me, you put Purdue right at the top, and I got Wisconsin right there with them, because Johnny Davis is my pick for National Player of the Year. I know he's been struggling a little bit, but they were able to tie up the season series with Michigan State not too long ago. So I don't think you can write off the Badgers just yet, which is funny because I was so not high at all. I was so low on the Badgers coming into this year. I just thought they lost too much, and all of a sudden Johnny Davis comes onto the scene.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same way about Wisconsin. That like coming in is just like I'm sure I was like I don't know a lot about the team, but like they're Wisconsin, so I'm sure they'll be decent at least, but nothing crazy. Then yeah, Johnny Davis, he's been balling. You mentioned that Purdue Illinois game because I've been high on Purdue. I really like that team. I was surprised they got beat down as bad as they did against Purdue. But I mean, I don't know that I really love that matchup though, and I hope we get to see it again in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Crack at it.
Oh, actually, just looking at the schedule, on Saturday, Marquette plays at Butler. So that will be a very interesting game for Butler. And I'm interested to see how they respond against a very talented Marquette team, especially being at their home court. And what are your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I think Butler's a team that, they're at a little bit of a crossroads because right now they haven't really been able to put together a string of seasons of real consistent seasons. They're certainly not a basement dweller in the Big East, but they haven't been able to get to that top level for more than maybe a year or two here and there. So I think for Butler, it's a chance to, okay, let's try to start playing. We've hit February. There's still a lot of time left in the season. How can we start now? You got to take that game-by-game approach, and maybe they can turn it around enough. Maybe they can get into that even, let's get to that 5 or 6 seed. Let's raise the bar a little higher. And, because this year more than ever, the bubble is so weak. I think the only teams that you can cross off for certain right now in the Big East are Georgetown and DePaul. I still wouldn't even cross off Butler because guess what? They win 4 straight games, which is tough to do in the Big East. I think you got to put them right there on the bubble because it's just that weak.
It is. It really is. Yeah, that's something like I've been looking at. Kind of messed around. I have some fun with bracketology stuff, and like I'm just like I get to past the 10 line, and then it's just like I don't know. Like I have no idea who's like those last 5 or 6 spots. Like there's like any of these teams and like any of these major conferences, just win a few games and like you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, it's just like I'll be looking at my list here, and normally, after a week, sometimes the most a team will go up is like 2 seed lines if they beat if you're a team like Arkansas and you beat Auburn, you're certainly going to rise up. I've been interchanging these teams on my bracketology more than ever.
Yeah,
it doesn't even feel right. I'm just like, am I doing something wrong this year?
Yeah, no, that's what I've been thinking. It's like it's so crazy. And then so I don't know how much you watch Pac-12 basketball, but what are your thoughts on UCLA? I don't know if you watch them a lot, but
yeah. So I really wasn't huge on UCLA last year. They certainly put together a big run. They knocked off some good teams. Going with that though, that's kind of what everyone, they put UCLA at the top of this year based off of one run in March. And I know that March is the most important thing, but for the 85% of the season before March, no one was talking about UCLA. And I feel like this year, they're sort of coming down to earth a little bit. I certainly think they're a top team in the Pac-12, but I would put Arizona ahead of them. I would put Oregon ahead of them once we get to March. I'm really in love with this Ducks team and what Dana Altman has done there. They've been one team that's had to deal with a ton of incoming transfers. And I think you've seen it with Texas as well. It's just tough for teams that get all these transfers to get that to work right away. And for that reason, again, Bruins are a good team, but I think they're kind of in that mix of maybe that top 3 in the Pac-12. And watch out for Stanford too. I'm big on the card.
Okay, yeah. No, I kind of felt the same way with UCLA coming into the season. I'm like, I love the team though. I love that roster. I love watching them play. But I'm just like, it's just hard to repeat that success like over a whole season because it was impressive like you said, but like the most of the season they were just a decent team and like they barely got in. So it's like I don't know. I mean, it's still gonna be tough out in March because they really get after defensively, and they got some guys who can make plays offensively. But like, yeah, I was just really skeptical about that. I'm glad. But then I got one more question for you. But do you have any like sleepers nationally that you kind of are looking at that could make a deep run?
Yeah, I think that now it's going to be tough because the Mountain West, uh, right now, I think 3 teams in Boise State, Colorado State, and Wyoming are all deserving of getting in. But who knows if the committee will think the same way. If Colorado State gets in, I think of those 3, they have the best, go-to primetime player. Where David Roddy, he steps on the court, and 9 times out of 10, he's the best player on the court. And that's one of the things you need in March is someone to take over once it gets to crunch time. So I put Colorado State right there. I'm kind of looking at my bracketology as we speak, trying to see what names pop out to me. Miami, Miami's done great there. Coach Larinaga has a real good team. I know
really good
big on
job.
the ACC, but yeah, like that's going to be. I feel like it always comes this way. There'll be like the 1 or 2 conferences that everyone's like, these are the best conferences. These are the best conferences. And then watch, like this week, ACC is going to get 3 teams into the Sweet 16 or something.
Yeah, they will. Like that's as a Big 12 fan, it's like everyone like hype up to Big 12, but like that the Big 12 style of play doesn't win a lot in March. Like because
No.
it's just way different style that they play. So like in like these teams like I don't know. I feel like sometimes people overrate like what like the conference people come from because like ACC's down. Like people say that like how good is Duke because of that, or like how good are some of these bubble teams in ACC that'll make it. But like I don't think that matters a ton personally. Because like I mean, yeah, being tested is a good thing, like playing a tougher schedule, but like they're like it's 30 games, like they've all been through a lot to get to this point. So that's the kind of mindset. And I love how you brought up the Mountain West. I love those teams. I love seeing Wyoming playing like this. Cause I don't remember what year it was. Cause I remember it was a couple years ago. They won a couple games in the Mountain West tournament, and then the coach got fired. I believe, and a lot of people didn't like that decision within the program. So I'm really, really happy to see them playing well this season. But I think it was 2 years ago. I would need to double check, but I believe it was 2 years ago when that happened.
Yeah, it's a great conference. Like I look at the conferences, and you got the Power 6. I consider the Big East a power conference.
Yeah.
In basketball. But then the A10, the Mountain Western, is so fun to watch.
Yeah, those 2 conferences are I love watching them all play. The Americans disappointed me a little bit this year. SMU got a big win against Houston, so they're putting themselves in a really good spot moving forward to get it. But Memphis, I thought Memphis would at least be a tournament team. But like,
And now it's just
it's like I don't know. I thought Wichita State would be a little bit better. Like, yeah, some of those other conferences have fallen off, but like the Mountain West, A10, like there's still some really good mid majors that I'm super excited to watch. And I want as many of them in a tournament as possible.
Yeah, fun. It's fun, man, and they're great teams.
They are.
I'm there for tournament expansion, and
Definitely.
I don't know how much, but I think you add it to like 80 teams, even 96 teams. There's just so many great teams in college hoops. I think it would be awesome.
I would be down for more March Madness basketball, so I would never complain.
So I think that wraps up episode number 12, and we thank you, Matt, for hopping on, and we definitely enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, thank you guys as well. Anytime.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Sure.